Welcome to NOCLIP, the podcast that's like a book club for people who don't think that books reward them enough for being good at them. I'm Chad Rutherman.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today, we're going to be talking about the Talos Principle 2, a game that was developed by Croteam, published by Devolver Digital, and released in 2023 on Windows, PS5, and the Xbox Series X and S.
But first, you can give us a like or a rating or subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated.
The Talos Principle 2 is a puzzle game. It's a first-person puzzle game and a sequel to one of the first games that we did for the podcast, which is a bit of trivia that I did drop on the last episode. So if you listen to these back-to-back, you're going to be like, I just heard that, but like, shut up.
Yeah, I went back and looked, and it's an older episode than I thought. It's episode 21.
Dang. That's so long ago.
I would have put it like 15 episodes later than that, if I had to guess.
It does kind of all blur together before 50 for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That makes some amount of sense. But if you've played the Talos Principle 1, the Talos Principle 2 feels like... This is my thesis. I think that the Talos Principle 2 feels like an older game than it is in a lot of ways, all of which are difficult to describe. But I think that it feels like a sequel in the way that sequels used to feel for games, where they would make a game and then the second game would just sort of assumed that you played the first one and start with those mechanics and then build stuff onto it. The Talos Principle 2 is like that. I feel like it feels like it assumes that you have an understanding of like what your basic goals are, and then it just adds new mechanics all the way throughout the game. And I think that that's pretty cool. Honestly, even though like I hadn't played TP1, which is not what I'm going to be calling it. It sounded bad the moment that I said it. In a long time. I haven't played that game in since we did the episode on it. And I still felt like I was like, oh, right, this feels very familiar. This is very easy to pick up, which I think probably says more for the intuitive design of the puzzles than it does their like weird sequel philosophy. But I do think it is interesting either way.
Yeah. Like, it feels so familiar, in fact, that like I wonder if like this was intentional at all, because the experience I had with it was I started it up, and it starts in the exact same way the first one does. You wake up in the exact same location, and you do very similar puzzles. For all I know, they could be the exact same puzzles. I feel like they're not, but they might be. And you do your little tutorial, and I was like, really disappointed right off the bat. I was like hoping this would be like a little more different, and then wish granted. You wake up from like a simulation, and then you're like talking to an NPC, just very different from anything in the first game, and then you like go out into like a town square, and a giant god appears in the sky, and then like you ride a shuttle to this huge city, and I was like, oh shit, like I spoke too soon. This is way different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
And then a guy asks you to sign a petition.
Right.
Which is the thing that I would believe happened in the first game, but did not.
Right. So it felt like a cool bait and switch for me. And and I did not beat the first one. Much like this game, the first one just kept kind of going on. And I did not finish it before the deadline. But didn't it kind of end with like a setup for like how this game starts?
Yeah. The narrative... So I have thoughts about the way that this game's narrative is handled, and I don't know if they're going to be significantly different than how I felt about the first game. And how it dealt with its narrative. But yeah, it is a contiguous story where at the end of the first game, you find out that the trials you've been doing are like a test to see if your consciousness is like complete enough to be put into like a replacement human, a surrogate human body, which is a robot body. And then this game is like picks up after that person who is the character Athena picks up and starts actually creating more robots, and then into the society that you have in the Talos Principle too. So it's actually set like hundreds of years later, but it is like the setup, and then they just skipped all the parts where they built stuff.
Right.
Essentially.
To build off of like what you said about how like the game kind of assumes you've played the first one. It did seem like it did pick up, like from what I remember of the ending, like watching it on YouTube or whatever. This seemed like it did continue right on from it, and that also feels like an older game thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to like, I don't remember when the first Talos Principle came out, but I am surprised at how perfectly they did at making a game that feels like it assumes that you played the game, but also assumes that you played the first game 10 years ago. Because it is like, it does hit you with like the main beats that you can sort of infer if you it does a good job of sparking your memory of the things that happened in the first game. Like hitting you with Elohim right away, like unforgettable character Elohim, the disembodied voice,
everybody's favorite guy.
Yeah, and then you do the puzzles, you like put boxes on squares, and you're like, I remember this, I know how to do
get
these
the
things.
Tetris
Laser
pieces.
beams, get the Tetris pieces, etc., etc. And then you go out, and then it will start reminding you of the narrative beats from the end of the first game. So I was happy with that. I do want to segue briefly into kind of a nonsense, stupid point that I promise can branch into something more interesting to talk about. I have an assumption, and I don't know how accurate it is, but did you love that there was like a hub world? It's not really a hub world, but like that there is like this city that exists that it just like weirdly separated from the main gameplay parts.
I think yes and no. I don't know if I said it already, but much like the first one, I didn't finish this game either. And it's like it felt like it didn't feel like a hub world. It felt like it was like set up for something that was going to happen later. Like I kept expecting to have to return back to the city and there to be something like about it that I would discover or something like that. I just expected to come back to the city and it be like an area that had puzzles and stuff to do, or like, something in the narrative would happen with it. So I had a hair up my ass about that. I did keep thinking about it, but like I never returned to it.
Right.
Like I explored it at the beginning and then, never came back to it.
Yeah. I did like, I liked that part at the beginning. Like having looked back on it now, like it's such a small percentage of like the playtime, but I did feel like I spent so much time in the city right at the beginning of the game. And because there's a lot of characters and they all have lots of dialogue, and this game needs like a much smoother way to skip through dialogue because every conversation takes like 40 minutes for no good reason. But I still want to read it, but like I don't want to listen to them do the whole thing. But you have to like weirdly double click to get through stuff, and I don't want to skip other dialogue. This is a minor complaint that I have about it. But the city itself I thought was very cool, and I like the fact that there was as much in it as there was. It doesn't like go out of its way to be like extremely interactive, but it is good set dressing. It's a thing that I imagine most AAA developers would consider to be a waste of time and resources to make. And that kind of makes me appreciate its existence because it feels very strange in the climate that we're in.
Yeah, it is very unexpected and it in a game like this, and it does make it stand out. For sure. Yeah, like it's so much in fact that like I was like that you have to come back. Right. Like it stood out. Yeah. And I agree. It is really cool. Cuz like you walk around it and you're like, "Man, I can't believe like how big this is. I can just explore it." The whole thing like right away. Like yeah, it is not something you really see in games very often. So I want to tell any Austin about this.
That is who I thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like that element of the narrative. I think is where I like the parts that are about the people and the city and everything.
Yeah, it's
I
called
will
New
note,
Jerusalem.
yeah, New Jerusalem, and then there's a failed city called New Alexandria, and they would make reference to both of them, and I would have to take a beat each time to remember which one was which. But yeah, so yeah, New Jerusalem was an interesting location, and I liked all of the stuff that centered around the people in it and the sort of like weird economic issues they had, like dealing with like how they were going to divvy up electricity, and like they're having power issues, and there's like a mayor, and most people don't seem to like the mayor very much.
Yeah, like if you go up into the tower right away at the beginning, like one of the first robots you run into is like number 666.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a really interesting way to start.
Yeah,
it's one of those
this like
most memorable parts of the game for some reason. Just turn the corner and it's like, hey, I'm 666.
I don't know how I must have fucked something up in my game, because that like launches a side quest type thing where like that dude asks you some questions and then you respond to the questions, and then he connects you with one of a group of people who are supposedly a member of like a secret society or something. And that person contacted me like one time and then never again. So I don't know what I did to ruin that, but apparently I wasn't allowed to be a member of the secret society.
Right. I quit checking that like log pretty quickly. So the same thing happened to me.
That's
they could have contacted me and I wouldn't have known.
I just didn't read it. Yeah. I liked as far as the tab menu goes, which is like any other game would be called like a codex or something. I don't know. I don't remember what it was called in this game, but it was like you had this interface that has like social media posts, which I get that like these are all essentially like cloned people from like these certain brain waves. Like I don't understand how the robots are made specifically, but they're all like consciousnesses that are created and then put through these trials, and then they put them in a body, and they all talk like no one on the planet has ever spoken before. Like none of the dialogue feels even a little bit natural, which like you can hand wave by being like, oh well, they're robots, so like obviously they don't talk like people do. They can like process 100 iterations of the same sentence in the amount of time that it takes me to fart out one. And so you're like, oh okay, maybe that makes some amount of sense. But then they have like social media and like internet arguments, and I'm like, I feel like, what about this part? Like is this the best version of each sentence that they're coming up with? I found it to be it's like kind of in a middle ground for me, because it was silly enough that I was amused by it to an extent, but it does feel very overblown, and like there's way too much text in this game generally. So, which goes against the first game, which did also have a lot of text, but like there weren't any live characters, so like things weren't really updating.
Right.
You just got like intermittent. You essentially got the equivalent of cutscenes, whereas this game is like press tab button and read a book for a minute and just stop playing the game for a while. And I found that a little bit annoying, maybe boring.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I like it in context. I think you kind of were getting at that, like, because they're robots, it kind of makes sense that they like share this connection to like a server or whatever, where they can all like communicate constantly. Like, for me, I don't like that framing of like referring to it like it's social media. Like that feels weird. That's the part that I don't like. Like I think you could have the exact same thing, but you just kind of present it a little different. and I think that it would feel a lot more natural. But yeah, like, I didn't engage with a lot with it either. I think this is like the classic scan visor and Metroid Prime thing. Like, it's interesting on paper, but like reading and playing are like kind of opposing activities. Like, in order to read the codec or, you know, the scan visor info, you have to stop playing and just sit there and read. You know, like, they don't integrate together naturally. You had to stop one to do the other.
Yeah, I think I think Bioshock ruined society. Because everyone was like, once Bioshock came out, it like launched this whole huge number of games that all used audio logs in the way that Bioshock did, where you would like pick it up and characters would talk at you while you walked around. That's like a better solution than just having this much text everywhere.
Yeah.
And like, I don't begrudge it in a game that doesn't have like the budget to voice act everything. That makes perfect sense to me. Or even is like working in an engine where it doesn't work well to have voices. That all is fine. But this game has tons of people talking. People talk all the time in this game. So they could have just done audio logs. And they do audio logs in addition to all of the walls of text.
Right.
And so if they had limited it to like the things that you found on the handprint readers, the terminals, I think I would have been more compelled to actually listen to it, because like there is a lot of this game, and if you played the first game, this is not a surprise, that is like they want to ask philosophical questions. That's like that is the narrative framework upon which a puzzle game has been built. And the amount that the player engages in that conversation, the better the result. And I think that they got a little overzealous and added so much text that it made it way harder for the player to want to engage with like the ethical, moral stuff that they were putting into the game.
Yeah, it does feel like it's a different, like they had different priorities. Yeah, like the first one is very much, like a hands-off storytelling approach. Like it's a lot in the background. As you said, there's a lot of reading and kind of engaging with like what you think about the questions being posed, etc., and so forth. It's more, hands-off, more subtle. And in this one, it feels like they had a bigger budget, they had a bigger team, and like they wanted to try to do some like more like direct storytelling. And I do agree. I feel like there's just a little bit too much being thrown at you. But like, I don't know. I feel like I think it works though, because like I think something like the audio logs in Bioshock work well for like a fast-paced, at times like action-y game where you're running around and shooting things. And on the flip side, like stopping and reading text feels more at home in something like an RPG, where like the pacings are more self-directed. Like I think this game falls in kind of a middle ground, and because it is like a puzzle game, it's more like something you had to stop and think about already at times. So like it feels like a natural enough fit in my opinion. But yeah, I do feel like there is a little bit too much of it. The fact that you have access to it at all times as well.
Yeah, I sympathize with that take. I think like the amount was, I think that I find it more abrasive to my playstyle because I feel the compulsion to have to actually read all of it.
Right.
And so it annoys me more because it feels like they keep putting assignments on my desk to be like, I better read these people arguing about what this piece of art looks like. And I'm like, okay, I read it. I think it looks like apple. Anyway, I'm gonna move on with the puzzle or whatever. And so I did go through like almost all of the text in the game. Not in the game. Not close. I will talk about that in a minute. There's a criminal amount of content in this game. But I do agree. It's good that you have access to it all the time. There's never like a time pressure on you to like read and respond to something. And And so you can just like finish a puzzle or even a whole set of puzzles and then like review all at once if you want to do that. Things like that are easy to get through. So I do agree. I don't think it's like that egregious. I think like for me personally, I may have taken it harder than it needed to be.
And I fall more to your side as well. Like, I don't really like the stopping and starting of like having to like stop and read stuff or feeling obligated to, you know. I feel like I want to like concede this one as like, I think it makes sense. Like, it makes sense thematically, or like it fits like the themes and vibe of the game to have it in there. So I'll give it to Croteam on that one.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the way that they deliver the narrative, or like the style of the narrative. It's just something that struck me as odd as I was playing through it. And I don't remember if the first game was like this, but I imagine it probably was. When you talk about games that have like a message or have like a philosophical sort of idea behind the things that they're throwing at you, this game talks a lot about like the like human existentialism. Like, do we deserve to exist? Are we a burden on the planet? Are we natural? That kind of stuff, which is a good through line because all the characters are robots. So like, I felt like that was one that really sort of clicked and worked well with the theme. But when you think about other games that do similar things, you think about games that don't, most stories, most art, especially in visual mediums, don't just talk about it. There's like metaphor layers on top of it. And it's not, this isn't a positive or a negative necessarily. It's just like, it's funny to me because it's not like this game doesn't have metaphors. It just talks about them directly. They're not hiding anything from the viewer to engage in it. It's like, why is Prometheus the like on the box art, and like why is Prometheus like the main driving guy in the plot? And you could go, oh, because we're talking about sort of like as humanity grows, is the access to technology and other things that we wouldn't have had access to long ago making us like, are we flirting with having too much power? Is this a thing that we can put back in the bottle? And then, but the game just goes like, so in the story of Prometheus, here's what happens. And this is the parallel between what we're doing and that story. And it does this over and over again with several Greek myths, as well as just with like like you'll be like, oh, should we use this thing that like lets you look inside your own subconscious or whatever? And then 8 people will just ask you about it. And it's very jarring to me as somebody who's like sort of felt like for a long time they've had to like build up those the analysis chops, you know, like I've been like, oh, what does this represent? Why did the camera move like that? What are they trying to say? What's the emotion they're trying to get across? For this game to just be like starkly fluorescently lit, these are the themes of the game, and here's the questions that we have for you. It's styled almost like you're taking a test. It's very strange to me.
Yeah, it's the big heady philosophical questions combined with like the pre-selectable answers. Does feel like it is not a good fit.
Yeah, it's hard. I will say they did a pretty good job of like always having a range of answers that I never felt like I was like, well, what I really think isn't here. But maybe if I had devoted more study to like the specific things they were asking about, I'd be like, this is woefully under-designed. But I really don't think it is. But it is very funny to like see that in that. It's like, well, what are your true opinions based on these 4 pre-approved opinions that you can have?
Right. Yeah. It is kind of hard to know how to feel about it. Because I do agree it does feel a little weird. Because it's like, are they trying to like emphasize the fact that the characters are robots and they would think about these things in really like straightforward, logical ways? Like, or are they like, because it feels like to me anyway, like the puzzles in this game are very much in the same style as the first game. Like the main gameplay loop is the same thing as the first one. So it feels like they tried in every other area, like of the presentation, to make it different than the first one. And maybe, yeah, like they just over like shot the other way. Like, whereas like the first one was very hands off and indirect. This one is like very straightforward and direct. But yeah, I don't know. It could be any number of things. Like it also, is it this team based out of Croatia? Is that where Croteam comes from? So
It is,
I don't.
yeah.
It could be like translation stuff. It could be any number of things.
That is a good, yeah, that's true. I do think that like sort of the methods with which they deliver information to the player are baked in. Like I don't think anything could really mess with that. So it is like a choice that they made to say like, like the way that it's all laid out is a choice that they made. And so I don't know. I find it, I think it's fine. I think especially considering the like breadth of topics, like, which I talked a little bit about a few of them when I was sort of discussing how they addressed metaphor in the game. But like, I don't want to go too far beyond that as far as like bringing up everything. Cause it really is, to me, it feels like the game is almost just trying to like compile survey answers to some degree in the way that it's told. It works in the sense that like it gives you something to think about that isn't purely just like spatial logic puzzles, which is what most of the game is. It does a good job of making you actually consider. I guess I can't. This is more subjective, but like when these questions are asked, I do like to actually think about like what they are asking and what the game is trying to say with each of them. It is jarring a little bit that it is so like cut and dry when it comes to the presentation of it. Especially in like, it's like a sci-fi world with like a big pyramid and laser beams and shit. Like it's pretty wild. And then everything else feels very human, which it may be the point. Because all the robots refer to themselves as humans. They are the human race as far as they're concerned. So, I don't know. It's interesting. It's a little cool and it's a little bit strange. I don't know. I like it.
Yeah. I like that it was so different. Like, I just feel like it could have been just about anything, really. Just like the fact that it was like such a curveball from the first one, I think just made it interesting to me.
Yeah. One last little note on the narrative, just like, I don't know if you had anything else. I wanted to ask, did you want, I guess you wouldn't have thought about it probably because like me, you haven't played the first game in 10 years, but like, did like when the game gave you all of this information about like Alexandra Drennan and Athena and Vincent or whatever, the guy who talks to you in audio logs, and Elohim and Milton, were you like, oh, this is good information that really fills out what I wanted to know about the backstory of the first game? Or were you like me, like, maybe I didn't need to know all of this. I could have just known some of it and sort of pieced it together myself.
Like kinda, I guess. I fall in a middle ground. Because it was cool to like get backstory on that stuff. Because I think it's cool, like the way the first one ends with the reveal that like, yeah, you were like essentially being put through like a test to like gain consciousness, and then like finding out like, oh, like is it Elohim in the first one, the guy that's talking to you the whole time? Yeah that find out he's like part of like this bigger thing, Yeah, so I thought it was cool, like at least at first, and then yeah, like going to the city and like seeing how it's all set up, etc. and so forth. But like then like yeah, they keep introducing new stuff and more characters, and it put me in that headspace of like I'll like sort through my thoughts and like figure out like what I think of all this like before the end, and like I'm just gonna kind of do puzzles right now.
Yeah, which is a good segue into what you do in the game for the most part, which is puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, no. Fuck that. I have one more thing. And very briefly, I do find it funny that like one of the main things about the game story, like the game is obviously more about its themes than it is about like its direct moment to moment story, but like that plot centers around the idea that like the ruins that you're visiting, like this mega structure and everything in it, could solve the like issues, the energy issues that New Jerusalem is having, which is like the main problem that they seem to have. And I look around at New Jerusalem, like it seems like you guys have been around for like hundreds of years and you built like one big building and that's it. Like the city is very flat and sparsely populated outside of this one giant tower.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it odd that they're unable to power it with that. Why even need public transportation? This is the most walkable city of all time. You can do a lap in 20 minutes.
Uh-huh.
That's all. That was the only thing that I had to say.
Assuming they have to power all the robots too.
That is true. They talk about having to be in sleep mode.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that is a thing. And there are 1,000 of them exactly.
Right.
Well, no, there's fewer than that because a couple of them died, I guess.
Right.
Right. Puzzles. Whenever we talk about a puzzle game, I'm always like, I don't know how to talk about puzzle design in the way that I understand how to talk about like how much a health potion gives you. Like that's so much more intuitive to me.
Uh-huh.
But the game, it's the game's like main focus is there is a locked door, figure out how to unlock the door. And you do that with like a bunch of tools, essentially. The game and its DLC both talk in their marketing about the Talos Principle's like world-renowned laser-based puzzles, which I did not know was like the thing about it. I didn't know if maybe I guess it's the only place you can get good laser puzzles. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But there are a lot of laser-based puzzles and like directing lasers around physical objects using like refractors and things that change the color of the laser beams. It's like that is kind of the primary focus and how you unlock a lot of those doors.
Yeah. Like I do remember like the thing I would have remembered about the puzzles is the lasers, I think. So
I mean, fair enough. Yeah.
It's like Portal's thing is puzzles with portals, and Talos Principle's thing is puzzles with lasers.
It is the laser-based puzzle system that they've set up is that is their groundwork, and it's like a pretty complicated groundwork that they do a good job of introducing the player to, I think. Because very early you basically just have to understand like how to interact with the different pieces that each of the puzzles are made up of. And so that's like, oh, a laser doesn't go through a fence, but they're like wide windows that you can shoot a laser beam through. And they're like an important piece of architecture that you need to identify as like an interactable part of the puzzle. And then as the game goes on, you increase the way that they increase complexity is by adding new devices, new things. Like you have the RGB converter, and then the inverter, so it turns red into blue. The RGB can take an R and a B and turn it into a G, as you might assume.
Uh-huh.
So changing colors of the lasers to go into the different receivers. And then like they start adding things like the teleporter and the driller, which is like a very narrow use case thing that just like puts a hole in a specific kind of wall.
Yeah, you got clones.
Which is a tool that a puzzle game needs.
Yeah.
What?
So then you have clones.
Yeah,
or you can body swap or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and then teleporting. It keeps adding more and more things, but they usually, I guess like it's weird because it feels like the first several puzzles in any given area all feel like tutorials because they keep adding these new things. So the game is like 12 areas that have 8 puzzles each, and then fucking some number of puzzles outside of it, because there's like the golden puzzle and 2 of the special extra hard the lost puzzles, and then there's some random puzzles inside the big pyramid. So grain of salt when I talk about numbers, because like I didn't experience probably half of what this game has in it, but it felt like there was a huge number of them that were like very easy to do, and then the other like 2/3 felt like the game part of the game. So I didn't dislike this because, as you were already talking about, the game does go on for kind of a long time. So I appreciated having some of the easier puzzles that went faster as I was progressing through. But it felt like because they kept adding new things rather than sort of combining and building on them, it had a very like jagged difficulty curve.
Yeah, and I really love that. I think it allows them to like, or at least allows me to like keep up with the complexity of the puzzles better. I really like that like you get to the zone and the first 4 puzzles with the new mechanic are like teaching you how it interacts with everything, and then like the second 4 of the 8 are harder. And yeah, I think that just allows me to keep pace with it a lot better, because like some of the puzzles are pretty hard, but I'm like able to keep pace with it. And I don't know, for me, I just think it makes the experience so much smoother than other puzzle games. Like I do agree. I mean, I didn't play the whole thing. I feel like they could have like mixed and matched the different mechanics more. But like I still think like all the puzzles that like I did, like I don't know, I feel like the Talos Principle is like in a sweet spot for me, where like I feel like the puzzles are like, even when they're easier, they're really satisfying to figure out, and then the ones that are challenging are like the perfect level of challenge.
Yeah, I think in my count, there were 2 puzzles that I didn't like. Well, depending on how you look at it, and I'll get into the later stuff later, because probably pretty soon, actually. But so I actually agree. I think I do think that the difficulty curve is jagged, but I think that I don't actually think that this game was. I didn't think that this game was too long until it became too long right at the end of the game. So it's like only a little bit too long. But I felt like it was it really drug at the end. And what helped with that is that it did feel like that easy, too hard slope and then reset.
Yeah, it's like a bunch of little
area.
Difficulty curves. Like each area resets.
Yeah, and it kept the pacing going. Like you never felt like you were really, even if you were stuck in a puzzle for a long time, it never felt like any one section of the game took like a huge amount of time to get through. And so it felt like you kept going along at a good clip. And like you said, I feel like it's very sad. A lot of these puzzles are very satisfying, like very well made for the most part. Like things that you look at, you are able to sort of visualize the solution and then do the solution. It's good for like people who are very visual. It's good for people who like to experiment with things. Like do stuff over and over again rather than like figure out the solution and then try and execute it perfectly. Like it has all of it covers the majority of the bases of people who might like this kind of puzzle. And it just works.
There's like
so
that,
I am also kind of happy about that.
Yeah, there's that tactile nature. Like, like you don't feel like you have to like sit down and like puzzle it out so much. Yeah, it's like you can try stuff and you can learn, it almost like fits like the kind of themes like, of the game. Like I'm a very visual person. So like I guess maybe that's, I hadn't really thought about it in this case, but that's probably helping me a lot. Being able to like visualize the different angles of the lasers and things. Like geometry was always my best math class. And I know people
that's fair.
People who are good at math tend to hate geometry, so
I was one of those people.
Yep.
Yeah. But then as I got older, I became bad at math. So maybe I like geometry again. I got to check it out.
Yeah, I like shapes. Shapes make sense to me.
It does. It ends up being like the polar opposite of another game that I really loved, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, which is a game that is like, do math, do math, do number
Write
puzzles,
everything down.
Write everything down. Do make a crossword puzzle of your own creation, and then somehow enter the solutions onto a clock. And you're like, okay, hold on, let me get my notebook and also a textbook on fucking astronomy.
Show your work.
And it's a great game. It's a game that I really liked. But it's just like the complete opposite of the Talos Principle, which is like feels conversely kind of almost messy in comparison, because you're like, oh, I have to solve this puzzle. It's like, well, I sprint through the puzzle room and just fucking scoop up all the stuff that's in there and like start connecting them up.
Move them around,
move them around. What happens if I put this on a fan? I just launch a thing into the stratosphere. It's great.
Take the fan off.
It feels sandboxy.
Throw it away.
And so it feels like a more sort of frantic, or just why there's no time limit ever.
Yeah, it's more like it's kind of playful. It does feel like it kind of like encourages you, or it puts you in the mindset. I never really did this, but like it feels like the kind of game where there's ways to like beat the puzzles in unintended ways. Like I did one puzzle that was like, they referred to it as like an unfinished puzzle. It was like an extra puzzle in an area. And I did end up stacking two things up and like hitting a jammer so it would just go over like one of the gates to hit the other one. And then you could climb up the ladder. And it's like, it feels like I beat that one like in a way that like I wasn't supposed to. Even though I do think you were supposed to beat that one that way. But yeah, like, so yeah, it does have that kind of like just do whatever you can think to do, sandboxy kind of energy.
Yeah. I think there is a I would say I was like a little bit, I felt I was a little bothered by it, but like it's a thing that I understand completely why it is in the game. And I wish I had time to like go play some of the Talos Principle 1 again to like compare and contrast, because I noticed a lot of times in this game because this is a game where you have like free range of motion. You can walk around and do whatever, and there's a jump button. But if you ever want to jump on something, there is like a predefined area that you can jump. And whenever you like pick something up, if it's across a barrier, your character will like slide into the barrier to pick up the thing. Like it felt like they did a lot to try and design out those sort of like clipping into stuff mechanics. Yeah. Which is understandable. You're a puzzle game, and not only that, but like it's a sequel to a puzzle game that a lot of people liked. Like it was a well-regarded game. So you want to sort of like preserve the integrity of the puzzles. I like it when the player has more sort of expressive freedom, but I understand why they did it, and I'm not like that bugged by it. And the puzzles were good, so it's not even like I felt like I was being cheated out of a way to make things better. Like they were still good regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except for the... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the first one worked the exact same way.
Yeah, probably. I just felt like there was... it didn't stick with me in that one. And maybe I'll forget about it in a year
Yeah.
with this one as well. But,
probably.
Yeah. I do want to... I want to call out... I don't... It's hard for me to want to call out like puzzles that I liked. I felt like very few of them to me felt like things that really stood out in a way. Like none of them were so creative and interesting from like a spectacle perspective that like they're lodged in my brain. They were just puzzles that I liked, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Conversely, there's one puzzle that I fucking hated.
All right, tell me all about it.
There's a puzzle. It's in the last area. This is a thing that we're going to talk about in like 30 to 90 seconds, and it's going to lead into another topic. But there's a lot of stuff on the map that you can like go and find, or you can just follow a predetermined path on the ground and just go from puzzle to puzzle, which is what I predominantly did, mostly because this game takes a very long time to get through. I found one Prometheus spark, which is essentially a get out of jail free token.
Yeah, I found a handful of
those. Okay. Well, you did more exploring than I did.
Yeah. I liked just like following the path and like looking for weird things. Like there were, in the snowy area, there was a cool one where it was just like you go down a path and then it looks like kind of like a man-made path, like maybe somebody like walked down there a handful of times. I was like, oh, what's that? And I went, and it takes you like around the side of a mountain, and there's one back there. So I thought there was cool little exploration parts. So
yeah, and that's the thing. Put a pin in that because I do want to talk about that. But I cashed in the one Prometheus spark that I found on this puzzle that I think is called rerouting, if I'm not mistaken. The concept of the puzzle is just a puzzle that miserably fails my once you figure it out, executing it shouldn't be difficult rule that we've talked about on multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of the puzzle is there's a beam and a thing and a receiver right next to each other. And when they're active, it opens a big window. And they're the only beam, it's the only beam in the whole puzzle. And you have two connectors. And the idea is that you connect it once, then you take the second connector and you go to the other side of the window, and then you connect it to the original connector and the beam and the thing so that everything's active at the same time. So that you can then go pick up the first connector and walk it back, and then you do the same thing where you connect everything, and then you disconnect the first one. So you secure it, and then you take out the one. But the way that the lasers work in this game is if any lasers overlap, the point where they connect, it just ceases to exist.
Right. You get the dotted line.
You get the dreaded dotted line. If you break the connection, then the window closes, and then you have to start the puzzle again.
Over again, yeah.
And I tried this and fucked it up for like, it wasn't like a super long time. It's probably like 10 minutes or something. And I was just like, this is so frustrating because like the positioning that you have to have, and if you fuck it up at all, you have to restart the puzzle, was so miserable to me that I just was like, oh, I have a thing that lets me just skip a puzzle.
Right.
And it was the only time I ever even thought about doing it. Like I never looked anything up for the game because the puzzles just are not like that kind of a puzzle. And then I never skipped anything. And then this one just broke me. And so it stands out as being like a particularly finicky thing, especially considering I believe that I solved the puzzle as far as like the brain power part of it goes. It was just so annoying to execute on that I had to skip it. So that's my dishonorable mention of a puzzle that I just really didn't enjoy.
Yeah. I only used one of those Prometheus sparks, and I did it on accident because like I got a puzzle into a spot where I thought I like a soft locked myself, and I thought those things were for resetting the puzzles. So I accidentally did that. I did go solve the puzzle anyway.
Yeah, you get the previous part back if you do that.
Yeah.
Which is a nice thing.
That is cool.
I don't know if you remember us complaining about in Crow Country, there was there's like a mechanic where it was like a hint machine.
Oh, right.
And if you use the hint machine at all, it like docked your score.
Mm-hmm.
But like it wasn't clear that what it was when you used it.
Right.
I like that in this game, if you use a Prometheus spark, you can then solve the puzzle and get it back.
Yeah.
So you no longer have the asterisk on your permanent record.
Right.
No, I did the same thing though. I thought that would reset the puzzle, but I did it before I had found any sparks.
Right.
So I wasn't actually in danger of doing that.
There's one that came to my mind when I thought of a favorite puzzle. And I don't know if it actually is my favorite, but it's just the one that came to mind. It's like one of the last ones that I did. It was like a big kind of like courtyard type area, like central area with a tower in the middle. And it just had like a bunch of like these moving pieces of like there was one of the body swap clones and like a jammer and a drill. And like you had to use the drill to like point up to make like holes in the ceiling of it, to like you had to like position your clone up on top and then have the guy on the bottom shoot the hole so he'd fall through. And you just had to like keep like juggling the pieces around so you were able to get a guy to the second floor of the tower. And I just thought that one was really cool. Like I think it was a cool concept, and it was like just challenging enough. Like it had like a nice momentum to it, you know. Like it probably did take me like 10 or so minutes to get through the whole thing, but it never felt like it dragged, you know. It was like engaging the whole time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember that puzzle. I think a lot of the ones that used like more verticality, which the first game like barely had anything with that at all, I thought felt very novel and cool. There's one that I think pushes it a little bit too far. That's like, it's a little too sprawling. I don't remember if you got to this, but it's like the one with the platform that moves back and forth. And there's like a area super high up that you have to like go and like you drill a hole in a wall and then you use it to connect to, don't worry about it. It's just like, I forget what it's called, but it's just like a laser beam based puzzle with like moving things, but you just had to keep going up and down, which is annoying to do because the game doesn't have like a fast way of going up and down. So you're like, I gotta put this thing on the button and then take the fan up to the next level. And you're like, it just, I don't know. But most of the time I think it worked really well. There's one that I thought was really cool. And it's like the last puzzle in the game, where they use the, like I forget what it's called in Portal. They have like a similar thing where like you can't take objects past a projected wall. It's like the purple walls. They use it because normally you walk into it, you drop whatever object you're holding, it makes like a bong noise.
Right.
They use it as a floor so that you can put items on it, but you can't stand on it yourself.
That's cool.
Yeah, and like they just use it as a bridge, like you get boxes and then you jump across them. But that was like a thing, because that just kind of like came out of nowhere in the last puzzle in the game, and I was like, yeah, there's like more you can explore with just like the base mechanics that are here,
right?
Which I thought was pretty cool.
I think like based on the title screen of this game, like aren't there like multiple DLCs for this?
There's 3 DLCs.
Yeah, so maybe the DLCs flesh that out.
Yeah, I've heard that the DLC is like, I don't know how they're all structured, but apparently one of them is like bonkers in like just like very difficult. And then the other ones are not as crazy. But yeah, it is cool. Just how much stuff that they do with what they have access to. Okay, I want to jump back to you talking briefly about exploring the areas. So I had this thought as I was going through the game that was, I would like if there were fewer prescribed puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
and more puzzles that were just like maybe traversal puzzles, like things you had to solve in order to get around on each area. And the reason I think this, and this ties back into me saying that this game feels older than it is, and in a hard to explain way, the visuals in this game are kind of really good.
Yeah, it looks great.
But they feel old in a weird way. Like it feels like a old style of game world design where things are very flat and there's like crazy shit around.
Uh-huh.
Like there's an area with like just like a bunch of huge statues of men. And like obviously like the statues of the gods play a role in the game, and like the huge pyramid and shit. It looks really good, but it looks good in like a in like a kind of weird, uncanny way to me. But I wanted to spend more time in it. I wanted to be doing stuff out in the world, and if they could have made puzzles that worked more organically within it, I think that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then I got near the end of the game, and I just found a fucking driller wall out in the fucking middle of nowhere, and I was like, wait, are there puzzles out here? And I just like didn't know, because I remembered seeing like a piece of equipment on the outside of a puzzle one time, and I was like, I am sure that that's part of the puzzle, and I will have to just get to it. But it wasn't. It must have been a seed planted to solve some kind of puzzle in the overworld, of which I never found one that I was actually able to solve, though I wasn't exploring that heavily.
Yeah. I would 100% believe this game would have puzzles in the overworld.
Yeah.
Because, I swear, like, I noticed, like, some kind of, like, laser up on top of something at some point. I was like, I wonder how you get to that. And then, just never found it. But no, I agree. I feel like the environment feel, like, very video gamey. Like, there's just, like, nonsensical ruins and things, and it feels like the kind of game that would put effort into, like, making its game world make more sense, So I guess maybe that's why it stands out. But no, I 100% agree. I think a way of like working puzzles into the environment would be really cool. Because like they're very like in the first game, the puzzles are very like it, by design, it's all themed this way. They're like very prescribed, designed puzzle rooms, very video gamey, very Portal-esque. So it would be kind of cool in a sequel to like kind of twist it and like make them a little bit more organic. Like, could you have a similar style of puzzle design, just kind of like in a forest, like, like could you, I don't know. You had to theme things differently, but like, it would be cool to see if you could like take that concept and do something with it.
Yeah. Just like any reason to have the player sort of explore a little bit more of the area in a way that was like necessary for progression.
Yeah.
It's the thing, because I wanted to sightsee to some extent, but not to the degree where I felt like, because I felt like I was going to be rewarded for it. Apparently I was going to be rewarded for it, but like in kind of small ways.
Yeah. Like they have the labs, like you do have to kind of like search for those, but that's really your only incentive. Yeah.
So there's like a few areas that do want, but I don't know. I just wanted there to be like a little bit more going on outside of the prescribed areas.
Yeah, like, you're kind of hungry
everyone knows
for
that,
it.
Yeah, everyone knows that the best part of Portal is the part where you break out of the puzzles.
Yeah.
And it's like to have the puzzles out, and my takeaway from that apparently is please put puzzles outdoors.
Right.
I don't know. That was my thought.
Yeah,
but apparently there are some things, and I know that there's a lot of this game that I didn't have time to get to.
Yeah.
So.
Well, especially like your drop down, because like the first game, etc. and so forth, just very prescribed puzzle rooms. And in this game, you like, get on a helicopter, and you fly out to like this beautiful forest, and area. There's a giant mega structure pyramid in the sky, and you drop down to like explore this forest with ruins in it. Yeah, like you want to like explore that and find stuff in there. But you just end up finding more prescribed puzzle rooms within the forest. That's where you spend your time.
That within the narrative of the game, it's explained that like one of the robots, the first robot, Athena, designed these things. So like it makes sense that they are how they are.
Right.
But you do have to have that understanding before it makes sense, because the first time that you look at it, you just go like, I'm on an island, and on this island, someone has constructed 4 8-foot tall walls and put a puzzle inside of it, which feels very like, I mean, maybe it's like, oh, this is man-made. Who did it? Whoa. But it's also a video game, and it makes it feel very much like a video game, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And the game itself is not really trying to convince you that it's more immersive than it is. But it is like a thing that we as an industry have kind of moved away from, which I guess lumps it a bit in with that like very unpretentious, like these are the themes of our game. How do you think about them? Presentation style as well. It feels like a very clinical decision in that way.
Before I forget about it, while we're talking about the island, the little monorail thing that you ride around to get in between places is definitely a homage or reference to Riven. Riven takes place on 5 islands. Each island had its own disc. And you took a little monorail type thing that went through these hoops, exactly like that. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I did think like there's definitely there's a missed connection with the way that the worlds are designed. Probably what made me think it felt kind of old, because like it did feel sort of misty to be out in these environments sometimes. Also, the monorail rides were like, I was like, why is this game not in VR?
Oh, yeah.
This would be a cool VR game.
Yeah. Is the first one?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
There might be some way of playing
VR. It does feel like it lends itself to that. But while we're talking about that, this game has a button that lets you play in third person. You can switch the perspective. I thought that was strange. As somebody who usually likes third person more than first person, this is not the kind of game that you want to play in third person, I think.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like it exists. I didn't think about this.
So you can see
until just
the robot. So you can see 1K.
Well, yeah, you can see 1K, everyone's favorite character. I'm thinking like, because normally the reason that you would have a third person toggle is if like you wanted more spatial awareness, which is like debatably a benefit in this game, but I would argue very unnecessary. But then on the flip side, maybe it's a motion sickness option.
Maybe.
Because it's just like first person games generally. This game, I will say, I was disappointed. It feels much slower than Talos Principle 1. Yeah. Just in terms of velocity of movement.
No, it felt like it made the speed I was moving felt like it made sense. So yeah.
Yeah.
I was a fan of that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it is good for most people, I would say.
I mean, much like the first one,
speed made more sense.
They do have those motion sickness settings, and I put them on right away and had no issues.
I do remember in the first game you saying, like, I thought that the game ran by default, and then when you pressed shift, you would walk. But instead, when I pressed shift, I ran even faster.
Yeah.
I was hoping for that in this game, but it's actually walking and then running when you hold shift. So I don't really have that much else to talk about, I don't think.
Not really, unless you want to like talk about any of like the specific like new puzzle mechanics any more than we already did. Like, do you have a favorite one or anything like that?
I do. But it's my favorite one is the teleporter. I think that the fact that you can teleport to a specific area and then pick up the teleporter and move it somewhere that's a mechanic that I feel like could sustain a game by itself.
Yeah.
Like being able to move in that way where you can phase through like certain objects if you can get through them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's more limited than I think it is, but that one felt extremely inspired to me and a thing that I did like a lot. So I do appreciate it's like one of the only ones that doesn't interact with lasers though.
Right.
Really not playing into the world famous laser puzzles of the Talos Principle.
Yeah, the world renowned. I think my favorite one was the RGB converter. I really like puzzle mechanics that deal with colors, for obvious reasons, but also like the Link's Awakening DX,
Color
originally,
dungeon.
and then also the remake has a color dungeon. And I remember getting to that for the first time, be like, oh, cool, like a dungeon themed around color. That just seemed really like that activated my imagination. I thought that would be a cool thing. And then it's just like the most basic kind of like switch puzzles, like, you know, like when the blue ones are up, the red ones are down, you know, sort of thing. And I remember that being really disappointed. So
Yeah.
I the idea of doing like puzzle or color puzzles is one that like I want to see done and like to see done in cool ways. So to make up for that.
Yeah, every color-based puzzle in a video game is making up for the Link's Awakening DX color dungeon. We're still paying reparations on that one. Sometimes you have like a good one and then you think of a dumb one and you just have to go with the dumb one. Do we have Sphinx thoughts?
My Sphinx thoughts. Yeah, I liked this game quite a bit, even though I didn't get to finish it because it's super long. Yeah, I remember liking the first one. Like it was one of the first, 20 or so episodes that we did, and I remember it being like one of the early games that really stood out to me. Because I had never heard of it before, and it took me by surprise. But yeah, that's been about like 10 years or so. So like, yeah, we've had our eyes on this game since it came out. And when I first booted it up, I remember they played me like a fiddle. I think, like it seemed exactly like the first one, and then I was disappointed, and then bam, they hit me with that curveball. And like that surprised me so much. Like when the game became so different right after that like I just was really into it. Even though, yeah, like I feel like the more hands-off kind of approach of the first one like kind of fits the mechanics and the vibe of this game or these games better. I just like that this was so different. It felt like a big swing. And I really appreciated that. Yeah, the game like looks really pretty. Like flying to like the mega structure for the first time. Like there was just a lot that like made it, the game makes a great first impression, I think. Like being in the big city, seeing the big mega structure, it's all really cool. And makes you want to keep playing. Yeah, and I think the puzzle design is like it's some of my favorite, I think, in any puzzle games we've ever covered, or that I've ever played on my own. Like I just think they do a really good job of tutorializing them. The visual kind of nature of them, I guess, makes them easier for me to like kind of grasp hold of. And then when the puzzles get challenging, I feel like I'm actually able to like keep pace with the complexity. So yeah, it falls in a real sweet spot for me. Yeah, and like we kind of were getting into it at the end. Like I feel like there are some missed opportunities to do some more creative things, like mix and match the puzzle elements more, or maybe do more to like kind of integrate the puzzles into the environment in a more organic way and have it be a little less video gamey. That could have been cool to see done in the sequel, but like overall, I really enjoyed playing this. It was like a good call to play the sequel to the Talos Principle, because like sometimes with games we've already covered, we're like, we don't need to do the sequel because it's probably going to be similar to the first one. We won't have anything different to say. But I'm glad we actually did this one. I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
And I'm sad that I'm not going to get to do the whole thing.
I mean, we could do a game that you already played, and then you can finish this game.
I won't though. I'll use the time on something else.
Yeah, that seems likely.
I'm not going to try and kid myself.
I like the honesty is an important part of our podcast.
You know, I've lived long enough to know how it's going to
go. Yeah, I really like this game. And it was it's one of those things where it's like, I do wish that I had more recent experience with the first game so that I could properly compare them. Because I was like, man, if this game is if the first game was as like cool as this, playing it through for the first time, like I always have held it in high regard, but like I don't think about it that often. And Talos Principle 2 does something that I think is really cool, which is just make a puzzle game that feels, maybe it's a little bit on the easy side compared to like the hardcore puzzle games that are out there, but it makes it feel very fast paced, almost like it feels like you have a good clip that you're going through the game with, and the pacing feels really strong. I actually didn't think that this game was too long until I got to the end, and it felt like it hit a brick wall, because not only is the last world like in my opinion significantly harder, the last like few puzzles are really tough, and then you go through like one puzzle room that's like a little bit complicated. I probably put it in like the middle of it. And then like this series of 8 puzzles that are like interconnected, but like not in a cool way. They introduce like a new kind of thing in order to pass like lasers between 2 different zones. But you just have to like walk back and forth between them. I felt it was such a stumble at the end. I didn't really get a chance to talk about it earlier. But other than that, I feel like this is the campaign part of this game is very strong, and it's a really good time, and the puzzles feel like they can be sort of worked out without pulling your hair out or anything. So maybe I'm just calling myself dumb by being like, oh, I like this game because the puzzles weren't that hard. But they do have challenge to them, so that's kind of it. I also agree the game looks super good in like a strangely uncanny way, and I do wish that I had more of an incentive to explore, I guess. But I don't know. I think that if you are like a puzzle game person, this game has such like an insane amount of content that it just seems like a good deal to some extent. Like between this and its DLCs, like I probably got through like 65% of the content of the game. And if you're not a dedicated puzzle game person, I think do what I did. Do any percent run of the Talos Principle 2 where you just get to the end and see the credits, because it's it's an accessible and a very cool puzzle game that is doing things that I don't really see in other places. Thank you for listening to NOCLIP this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we're going to be talking about the opposite of the Talos Principle 2. We're going to be talking about Uma Musume Pretty Derby, the anime horse girl racing gotcha game. And this is kind of a prank on Andy, but...
Why a prank on me?
Because I talked to JJ about the game in like a joking way, and he was like, no, that game is stupid, whatever. But then he kind of talked himself into being like, it would actually be really funny if we did an episode on it. And also we didn't tell Andy anything about it beforehand, because it is kind of a jarring
Right.
thing to experience for the first time.
Yeah. If only it was possible for me to download and start playing it without knowing what it was.
That would be
first.
very funny. Yeah. But yeah, so that's going to be next time. Hopefully, because this is a game that you will understand more or less the full breadth of the content within a fairly short period of time. So hopefully we will not spend like a huge amount of time before getting the episode out for this one. But hey, tune in and see. And until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com or on splattershot.pro. There you can find links to our email address, our Twitter account, the YouTube channel where we post all of our episodes, the Discord where you can talk about the games or suggest games for us to play, or just talk about like whatever you want, I guess. And you can listen to any of our old episodes, including ones that we did on technically the Talos Principle.
Right. Baba Is You.
Lorelei and the
Abduction,
Laser Eyes. Yeah.
Infinifactory.
The Link's Awakening Switch remake, so you can hear us talk about the Color Dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually
got
done
a good
more
number
puzzle
of
games
puzzle
than I
games.
remember. Yeah. Connect up 3 laser beams to the like, comment, and subscribe buttons.
Yeah. Use a fan to blow yourself up till you can ring that bell.
Pose a philosophical question in the comment section. But no, I thought it was, and yeah, I think that is very cool, and I think that fuck it, I don't remember what I was going to say at all.